Anyway, moving on.
Wait,
Shinoda, what do you got next?
hold on. Before that,
Hold
I
on, hold on.
just want to say, like, I understand you want to see that. I just want to see a hentai where they go through with the lusty Argonian maid. Okay.
Oh my god. Boku no Argonian Maid. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight, I have our Wizard of Wait What, Shinoda.
Chicken.
Is tasty. And our Chivalry of Shota's Shotaro.
I spit after I swallow.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What the hell are you
my
spitting then?
God.
Just your spit?
I'll let you imagine.
On that gross note,
It's called Schrodinger's spit.
Schrodinger, Jesus.
Eh,
All right,
Dinger.
so shut up with your Schrodinger bullshit. So before we actually get to what we're going to be talking about tonight, I do want to make a quick announcement, a very happy announcement, in the fact that this is going to end up being our 100th numbered episode of the podcast. I kind of wish we'd done something a little more special for the 100th episode, but, you know, this is what you get. So, but yeah, so this is the 100th numbered episode of the podcast. It took us 3.5 years to get here. Woohoo!
I regret everything.
No, you don't. You wouldn't be here if you did.
Bye!
Damn, that got dark.
I got dark really quick. Okay.
I've had a pretty damn good couple of years. I've made wonderful friends. I like you guys.
Aww.
Aw.
Hey, no homo.
Hey. As much as we've had to wait on you over the years.
Really?
Fun fact. Fun fact. Behind the scenes, we wait on him a lot. A lot.
Listen, I got much better at it, okay? Much better. I am not how I used to be when we first started out. You gotta give me that.
We were
true.
scheduled to start an hour ago.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
we were.
That wasn't completely on me.
Wasn't it though?
No.
Okay, sure. You keep whatever it takes for you to sleep at night. It's fine with me. Yeah, it's
I
been
don't
fun.
sleep at night anymore. It's all
Oh.
nightmares. And
Oh.
chocolate.
Speaking of getting dark, in more ways than one. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we all have a blast doing this. I do want to give a quick shout out to two people. One of them isn't on the podcast anymore, but we all wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Marcus, who started this podcast in the first place. He left us about a year and a half ago now, a little more. No, 2 years ago now. He left us, but we wouldn't have. But this podcast wouldn't have even got started without him. So thank you to him. I would also like to give a quick shout out to one member of our Discord server, Chris, who at least in the last couple months has come up with a lot of topics that we end up discussing on the podcast. So thank you to Chris for all that you do on our Discord server.
Thank you for having a brain because we don't.
Well, his nickname on the Discord server is Big Brain Idea Man.
He earned it. He definitely earned it. But in all seriousness, thank you for those out there that are listening right now. We really appreciate the fact that you guys have been sticking it out with us for so long. I don't know why, but hey, thanks.
Hey, don't question it. Don't question it. They're still here, and we haven't run them off. Don't question it. All right, so getting to what we're actually going to be talking about tonight. We thought it would be fun to give a rundown of some source material that doesn't currently have an anime adaptation that we think might, be suitable for an anime adaptation down the road. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go over some things that we have come up with on our own that we think might be fitting for an anime adaptation. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer up front. I think the three of us that are here are very well aware that not all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight is popular enough within Japan to warrant an anime adaptation, especially since some of the stuff we're going to be discussing tonight is Western media franchises. But I do want to stress this is things that we personally believe, would make good anime adaptations, not necessarily because they'd be a good financial decision for studios to get behind. So with that in mind, we're going to do round robin. So I'm going to go first.
I should warn you guys right now. There's going to be a lot of games in this list. We're pretty big gamers, so
there are a fair amount of video games. Yeah, a fair amount of video games on this list.
I have not played any of the games that I'm recommending to be made anime.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
So, that's why you don't have Civilization 6 on here.
I play Civilization a lot, but it has no plot, so that would not make a good anime.
The plot is whatever you make it.
It's just like a generic, like, international war plot. It'd be boring.
No, the plot necessarily have to be a war. There's just so much.
I guess so.
Exactly.
See, you can tell I'm a very violent Civilization player when war is integral to the game in my descriptions of it.
What are you saying that Civilization can't have a plot? The plot would be that you build up a tribal civilization and then Gandhi comes and nukes you. That's the story.
Oh, that would be funny. Oh, a meta anime about like civilization jokes would be pretty funny.
Okay. And there are quite a few to choose from. But anyway, I'm going to get started with a game, surprisingly, that I genuinely think would make a good anime adaptation. I do think that this actually has at least some chance of eventually getting an anime adaptation, and that is Nier Automata. Actually, any of the Nier games, for that matter, I think would make great anime. But Nier Automata specifically because it's very artistically stylized. It's got that steampunk-ish aesthetic. It's got that sort of bullet hell quality thing that I personally like. And it's also got great character designs within the game. As you know, 2B's ass is like legendary at this point. But yeah, I just think like stylistically it can make a good game, and I also think story-wise it can make a good game. I personally think the best way, if you were going to do an anime adaptation of Nier Automata, would probably be to do like a mashup of the A, B, and C endings.
Doesn't it have like 26 different endings or something?
Yes, it has a different ending for every letter of the alphabet.
That is honestly pretty impressive.
Yes, well, some of them are jokes. Some of them you can actually get the ending at the very beginning of the game. You just have to do these like minor things. It's like one of the endings, it's sort of a joke ending, it's when you start the second playthrough, when you're playing as 9S, where all you have to do is run away from the operation area, and it triggers the ending immediately. It's like, so 9S just decided, fuck this, and ran away, and just like, I'm gonna go, explore the world. That's one of the endings. I think the best thing to do would be have a combination of the A, B, and C ending, or A, B, and C playthrough. Other than that, I just think that story-wise, those three endings are the best to do because they're certainly the most emotionally charged endings. So I think for all the ones that I have listed, I've come up with studios and directors I think would be good for this. I couldn't decide when I was thinking through this whether it should be done by either Shaft or Ufotable. I'm leaning towards Ufotable mostly because they do really good action animation, as evidenced by the currently airing Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is absolutely phenomenal, and you should watch it. And for a director on this, I went with Takeshi Koike. So for those who may not know or be familiar with his work, he was the director of Afro Samurai, Red Line. He was a director of the Iron Man anime adaptation. What else? He was also a director on something else. Oh, he was a director on one of the, I guess, vignettes from the Animatrix, the one titled World Record. Uh, so yeah, he's got his hands in some really good action anime.
I
So
haven't watched the Iron Man one, but everything else I've watched, and they are quality works. I will tell you.
Absolutely. And then I also came up with someone I think that would be good for the music, and that would be Yuki Kadra. So Yuki Kadra, probably most famous for, well, probably most mainstream famous for the soundtrack to Sword Art Online, which for all the bitching I do about Sword Art Online, I actually think it had a really great soundtrack. Um, Aside from that, trying to think of some other really popular stuff that she did. She composed the OP, the first OP to Aldno Zero. Just, I'm drawing a blank here. She did all the music for Erased, which was really, really good. She's just really good at this very thematic style of music where she can just she can figure out what kind of music an anime needs and then just write entire pieces around like an idea. So that's why I chose her. Anyway, that's why I think Nier Automata would make a good anime. So next, Shinoda, what do you got?
All right, folks. Now, not everyone might know this franchise, but it is rather quality franchise, and I heavily recommend checking it out if you haven't. It's one of those where it doesn't matter what age you play it in. It's just it's good. Now, what I'm talking about, Dishonored. They're games. Okay. So the first Dishonored is centered around Corvo, the royal assassin. Or if I remember right, he was the royal bodyguard turned assassin. Yeah, that was it.
Bodyguard turned assassin. You got it
Yeah.
right.
Um, I'm not gonna say how it happens. It does happen very early on, but basically shit goes down. He ends up getting some powers of a outsider, basically a god, um, and he's basically on a revenge story. And it is actually really intriguing because there's a lot of politics, a lot of manipulation, and the even the playstyle of the game itself was you can do things in a rather murderous way where you're just killing everyone and like straight up killing all the major enemies, but that just makes the world shittier and shittier, and you see what's currently going on, a plague and like people being mistreated, just all the bad stuff happening even worse. Or you can knock people out and like frame the bad guys for and exposing them for the evils they do and make the world better, and it actually shows in the game. This has a lot of potential to be actually shown in an anime, and I would love to see that. See what kind of choices Corvo would make and how the world is changing. It's amazing to see in the game, and I would love to see what happens outside in an anime setting. And not to mention, there's also a second Dishonored game which is even better and just goes even harder on stuff. So I would. It has enough material. It definitely has enough plot and so many different, unique, and interesting mechanics where I would love to see it become an anime and steampunk aesthetic. And let me tell you, oh my god, they have it right.
Yeah,
Sorry if I
are you
fangirled a little bit too hard there.
No. It's fine. It's fine. So are you saying you actually want an anime adaptation of the game, or you want an adaptation that takes place like within the game's universe?
Honestly, I could do either or. Like, I would love to see it from a perspective of someone else. I would even hell, I would love to see the main character going through everything and just seeing it from an anime perspective. either way, I just want to see it animated.
I've played. I haven't played the second Dishonored game, but I played the first. It was a very fun game, and I thought that like just its art style just was very reminiscent of something that could be very easily adapted into an anime, especially if it was done by someone like Studio Trigger or someone like that. It's that very. I hate to use the term cartoonish, but they use like the heavy outlines on stuff, and it was just the art style was just lended itself to anime.
It's very unique. They definitely had that going for them.
Yeah. All right. Show.
So I have a little game called Outlast, which is definitely has a lot of mature content. So if it does become an anime, it better be like a premiere on Netflix or some sort of web-based premiere, because I don't want censorship, which it will definitely have if it does become an anime. So Outlast is a game. Specifically, it is a first-person survival horror game where you play as a journalist. In the first game, you go and investigate an incident that occurs in a psychiatric ward. And when you get there, basically the place is in chaos and all of the patients are trying to kill you. And what you do for the entire game is you hide from the patients and try to survive. And that, honestly, I love those kind of plot or stories where like you're stuck in a place and you have to like avoid people trying to kill you by like, and it's like you like explore the psychiatric ward, but at the same time you run from the people killing you. It'd be great, you know? Lovely. The only problem is that there's not a lot of good anime horror. So that could be a problem, or it could be an opportunity.
It could be a solution to the problem.
Yes, Outlast is a solution that anime needs. The only thing I'd change about the setup of the story is that, I mean, as a game, it kind of works when you're the only person hiding from the psychiatric patients because you're playing that person. But I think it would be interesting if it's like a group of high schoolers go to a psychiatric ward, and then they each get like picked off or whatever, and then it adds a bit more motivation, because like, oh, I want my friends to survive as well as myself, so then it gets the viewers more invested in the story. Otherwise it's just going to be like, I'm trying to survive by myself, which is really not too interesting.
So basically, it sounds like what you're saying is you want something like Friday the 13th, just set in a mental hospital.
Friday the 13th, is that Freddy?
Jason. Freddy is Nightmare on Elm Street.
You know, it's not really. There's not like. See, the thing with Friday the 13th is more along the like one serial killer is coming to kill everyone. This is more similar to like post-apocalyptic zombie kind of thing, where there's like a bajillion people trying to kill you. So
okay, so you're just stuck in one place, though. That's the big difference.
Oh, I didn't know you're stuck in one place in Friday the 13th.
No. Well, I guess you kind of are if you're talking about the Camp Crystal Lake where it takes place. I'm talking about being trapped in an insane asylum.
Yeah, you're trapped in the insane asylum.
Yeah, you're essentially being trapped in the same place. Like, and it's a kind of a confined space.
Yeah. And
I'd watch that.
I think it would work really well as an anime because there's a lot of tense moments, obviously. And I think a proper soundtrack, I don't know. I don't remember the game soundtrack, but I think a soundtrack on a theatrical, in a theatrical setting would work really well, as well as like, jump scares and everything. It would work really great. Yeah.
So basically what Mayoiga should have been, Lost Village, or was it Lost Village?
Well, I think Mayoiga was supposed to be like a comedy or something. I don't know.
It was. I think it was a very unintentionally funny in a lot of parts.
I don't know. There's a whole conspiracy about Mayoiga and what kind of genre it actually is, and it's just confusing.
Oh man,
Very confusing.
It was a train wreck, is what it was.
Very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd watch it based on what you described. I've never actually played the game Outlast, but based on how you described it, I would definitely watch that kind of an anime.
I'm not really into jump scares, so I don't know if I would necessarily check it out, but it sounds conceptually interesting.
Yeah. Maybe you could make it, as well as the horror aspect of it, maybe you could add some more thriller elements to it as well. I don't know, maybe there's some kind of mystery that has to be solved along the way.
I mean, there is a mystery in the actual plot, but it's not that interesting. Well, it's not interesting to me.
Well, so you got to make it more interesting for the anime.
I guess so.
All right. So the next one I want to talk about is actually a manga. It's a manga called Billionaire Girl. Now this manga is it was done. The story of it comes from Isuna Hasakura, who is the guy who wrote the Spice and Wolf light novels. And the art is done by a mangaka named Asuka Katsura, who probably the most famous or most well-known work from this mangaka is a manga named Blood Plus, which has an anime adaptation, which is actually not half bad. But Billionaire Girl is about a girl, obviously, who asks a college student to come and give her tutoring because she doesn't actually go to school. She doesn't go to school because she is a day trader and she makes about 10,000 yen an hour.
Good
and she's amassed
Lord.
nearly 200 billion yen worth of money in her accounts.
Typical
being
Japan.
a day trader. And she's portrayed as this like insanely intelligent mathematical person, and she's able to like mathematically work out market trends and stuff, and that's how she's made so much money being a day trader. But she doesn't actually go to school because she's, I guess, embarrassed. They don't really explain why she doesn't go to school. But it's sort of it's an interesting romance that develops between them, and I just think for that reason alone it would make an interesting romance anime.
Wait, how old is she?
She is 18.
Oh, you say go to school. Wouldn't she go to college?
High school. She's trying to graduate high school.
Oh, okay.
And she hires a college student to tutor her.
I see.
So I'm assuming they make her 18 to avoid, dirty looks. But this particular manga, it's only 3 volumes, so 20 chapters. So this could, and it's completed. It was completed back in 2013. And I just think that with like maybe 13 episodes, you could make a pretty good anime adaptation of this manga. I really like the story. The art is pretty good too. The romance between the 2 main characters is actually very believable. It's portrayed very believably. And you actually learn a lot about day trading.
Is it ecchi?
No, it's not.
Is it shoujo?
I would classify it more as a shoujo than ecchi.
Interesting.
If you go look on Mal under its manga listing, the 3 genres it uses is seinen, romance, and drama.
Oh, it's seinen. Well then.
Yeah. But I would classify it as sort of a slightly atypical shoujo romance.
How much material does it have?
I told you, it's 3 volumes.
Oh, okay.
20 chapters.
You think it would be a good movie then?
It could work as a movie. It'd have to be like maybe a 2-hour long movie, I think, to get all the content in. But it could work as a movie. Or maybe it's like a series of like 40-minute OVAs, like 2 or 3 40-minute long OVAs. That'd probably work too. I think that part of the reason it hasn't gotten an anime adaptation is because of how short it is chapter-wise. So, I don't know. I personally think you could do this in 12 or 13 episodes. But it's a quick read for anyone out there that's never read it. And you will learn stuff about trading in the stock market, as is par for the course with Asuna Hasakura's works. You'll learn something about economics. But anyway, I think that this particular manga would make for a good anime romance. The only thing I can come up with, I think that A1 Pictures might actually do this justice, but I couldn't think of a good director for this. Someone who's done anime romances before. Anyway, Shinoda, what do you got next?
All right. Now, something I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with at this point, whether through memes or just spending those afternoons after school just hopping online and playing with the boys for hours on end. Good times, good times. I'm
Or if you're an
talking.
old fucker like me, you go to someone's house, bring your Xbox, and hook them together.
Or that, because split screen. Oh my god.
Yes, local split screen. What a fucking novel concept in today's world.
We're, of course, talking about Halo, the franchise. Now, I'm already hearing a couple of you say, but wait, what about Halo Legends? And you're right, Halo Legends does exist, but that's only a single goddamn movie, and it's not even one coherent movie. It's just a bunch of
It's a series of vignettes, just like
yeah,
the
sorry.
Animatrix was.
Yeah, it's just a series of vignettes, which all of them were fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's not an anime. It's just separate stories. What I want is a full-on story done of Halo, because the content and the lore is definitely there, all the way from the ancient fucks to the
The
forerunners,
ancient fucks.
the
The ancient fucks.
what?
I no, it just sounds like you could actually. It's it sounds like what you'd call like an alien species in Futurama, the ancient fucks. That's literally what it sounds like. It sounds like fucking something from Futurama, the ancient fucks.
Oh god. You're right.
I've set him off.
I'm sorry.
All right,
Okay.
calm down.
Okay. Okay. What I'm referring to is, of course, the precursors, of the Halo universe. From all the way from them, at the beginning to the ancient human and Forerunner war, to the Forerunner Flood War, and all the way to humanity fighting the Covenant. And then even beyond that, the amount of lore is absolutely filthy, and it's there. There's so many different stories, a lot of politics, a lot of survival aspects, a lot of great battle scenes. All those things exist, and just the philosophical questions that the series itself has asked time and again. It's actually rather fantastic, and I would definitely love to see a anime based around that. Now, there are some things that are a bit questionable as to the more fighting parts, the action parts, I should say, how well it could work, but I can see it work decently enough from like a outside perspective. So I would definitely be in for a Halo anime. How about you, Alex? What do you think? Would it
I
work?
mean, yeah, I think there's definitely enough story wise within the universe. You wouldn't even have to necessarily do an anime based on any of the games, because there's stuff like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of novels that have been written within the universe. And there's also stuff that's alluded to constantly throughout the entire franchise that's never actually been seen. Um, so it would be really cool. And as much as I would like to see maybe an anime adaptation of just the Master Chief story, which itself would probably be good enough for an anime, I'd really like to see, if this does ever happen, I'd love to see an anime adaptation of the story of Reach, the story of the fall of Reach, because I think, as much as I love the main Master Chief storyline, just that whole game Halo Reach had a great campaign story, I thought.
It's easily one of the best Halo campaign stories out there, like amongst all the main titles. So
Yeah.
I would definitely love to see that. I'm not
I'm trying
sure
to think
if
what
it
kind of
would work as
go
like
ahead.
a 23, 24 episode
Talking
anime.
about Reach?
Yeah.
I think you could do the story of Reach in maybe 23 to 24 episodes, maybe 26.
I don't know if that's like too long is the thing. I think it might be better if it was more closer to like 14, 15 episodes. More compact, but lot better that way, quite possibly. Because it
I
definitely
don't.
had a lot of story, but I'm not sure if there's enough to stretch it out that much.
I think what you could do if you were going to do an anime adaptation of the story from the Reach campaign, I think I think you should make it like a 23, 24, maybe even 26 episode show. But if you did that, you're probably right, Shinoda. You probably wouldn't need that amount of time to tell the story of, the fall of Reach as it's portrayed in the game. What that would allow you to do, however, would be to come up with more backstory for the characters and portray that. Which I think if you did that, it would make a lot of the stuff toward the end of the storyline way more poignant. If you actually got to see where these characters came from.
It would definitely help, although I have somewhat of a feeling the fact that we don't necessarily know too much about them is what makes them somewhat fantastic. We learn about them on their journey, not just before or during. Or, well, not obviously during, sorry. But before.
I would hope so during, yes. Yeah. Unless you weren't paying attention to what you were playing. Yeah, I would definitely give it a shot. I mean, of all the stuff that we have listed here, it's probably the least likely to get done because Halo and just the Xbox in general was never and has never been popular in Japan at all.
Which is a shame, but it's understandable.
Yeah. All right, show.
I have another game.
Shocking.
Huh?
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I have Bayonetta, which, if you haven't heard of Bayonetta, then what are you even doing with your life? But in case you don't know what it is about a tall, busty woman fighting these monsters that are called angels because they're allegedly from heaven or something. And it's basically just a hack and slash shoot 'em up game where you play as a hot woman and you just do somersaults and backflips and then, pound.
Kind of like Nier Automata.
Yeah, basically Nier Automata, only hotter.
Only with black leather.
Oh, yes, and feathers and fur. Lots of good things. I think it would make an amazing anime because the game is already ecchi. So, and you know how anime loves ecchi. So, anime would just eat this up. And I'm sure the Japanese audience would just eat it up too. Because there's a huge market for
Bayonetta
ecchi.
Is literally every kink checked off in the Japanese books.
It's so true. She's every archetype.
Pretty much. You're not too far off from the truth, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think Bayonetta, I do definitely agree, could make for a very interesting ecchi style anime. It's got to be done by Madhouse.
You gotta get that High School of the Dead boob physics in.
Exactly. That's exactly why it needs to be done by Madhouse.
You can't animate Bayonetta without boob physics.
You really can't.
Just not.
Or ass jiggle. Let us not completely count out the ass jiggle as well.
Of course not. The ass has to dodge bullets just as well as the breasts.
Like, if you guys don't know, like, seriously, just go YouTube her even. Like, she is stupid lewd, and it's fantastic.
And also, I would like to say, if you genuinely have no idea what we're talking about, just go. I don't even know what you would search for on YouTube, but go search for the fucking boob physics in High School of the Dead, because that's exactly what we're talking about.
There's almost like a 95% guarantee you've seen that physics somewhere in like a GIF format, for a meme or something. Believe me,
Yeah.
it's just one of those images or GIFs that are just out there. Even if even if you haven't been that into anime, you would have seen it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I would definitely watch a Bayonetta anime though. It's a fun game.
The only problem with the Bayonetta anime is that she'd slay everyone's waifus.
I mean, is that such a bad thing though?
Not really, no.
All right. So the next one I have on my list is another game. Shocking. God, we're doing so many games. We should have done 2 or 3 games max. But yeah, the game franchise, again, it's not a very popular game franchise outside of the West, but I figured, what the hell, I like it, and I know a lot of other people do too. That is a game franchise known as The Elder Scrolls.
Not that big, huh? I'm pretty sure it's fucking huge.
Well, yes, in the West it is for sure, but I don't think The Elder Scrolls is that well played in Japan.
I don't know about Japan, but definitely in Europe.
Oh, for sure, yeah. In the West, for sure, yes. The Elder Scrolls is huge. Just about anything by Bethesda is pretty huge in the West. Even though we should know better by now not to get our fucking hopes up about a launch day Bethesda title.
Calm down, calm down. We're not going into that.
Oh, no, Todd Howard, fuck you! But no, I love the Elder Scrolls franchise, and speaking, as we were talking about Halo, speaking of a video game franchise with very deep lore, this thing has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years worth of lore.
More than hundreds,
oh yeah, thousands, but yeah, you get my point. There's so much lore, and a lot of it is just stuff you hear about and you never actually see. And that's what I was thinking when I put this down. It's what I don't really want an anime adaptation of an Elder Scrolls game. What I would like is an adaptation of something from the Elder Scrolls games that we've heard about but we've never actually seen. And I've actually been thinking about this the last couple weeks when we figured out we were going to do this topic. It's I think what I would like most of all is an anime adaptation of the life of a person that we've heard so much about in the Elder Scrolls but never actually seen, and that is a character by the name of Tiber Septim, or Talos, who is the person who within the lore of the game is the person who united the continent of Tamriel into the Empire. That's what I like to see, because there's so much myth and legends within the games that have cropped up around this character that I think it would make a really good anime just to see the life and times of this character ascending to the throne of Emperor. That's what I'd like to see. And the only studio I could think of off the top of my head would be Studio Wit to adapt this, mostly because I think the art style of Elder Scrolls kind of fits with Studio Wit's kind of built-in art style. And the director I would choose for this particular project is Tetsuro Araki. If that name is not familiar to you, he directed multiple episodes of Black Lagoon. He was the director of both Death Note and Guilty Crown. And at Studio Wit, he's also been the director of, I believe, all 3 seasons so far of Attack on Titan.
He's got some work behind him.
Yes. So I mean, I know I have no doubt that this kind of an anime adaptation would probably do pretty damn well in the West. I just don't know if there's enough oomph behind it within Japan to actually ever make this happen. But yeah, anyway, moving on.
Wait, hold on. Before that, I just want to say, I understand you want to see that. I just want to see a hentai where they go through with the lusty Argonian maid, okay?
Oh my god. Boku no Argonian maid.
Anyone who knows that franchise knows exactly what I'm talking about.
By the way, I'd like to note that I've been doing a new playthrough recently of Skyrim. I actually just got finished with it a couple weeks ago. And I found while in this playthrough, I found an Easter egg that I had never seen before, and it was a wall when I was dungeon crawling, and it's behind a locked door, and it's literally just a pile of Argonian made the lusty Argonian made volumes and rolls of paper.
No.
Yes. So thank you, Todd Howard and Bethesda, for giving me something I never wanted.
That's fucking amazing.
I didn't need to see that. I didn't want this. Moving on, Shinoda.
All right. Next up, finally, not a game.
Hmm.
I don't
Wow.
know if there's a game of it, but
Actually, I think there is, but we're
oh
gonna
my
gloss
god, are
over
you
that.
serious?
I actually do think there is an anime adaptation, but go ahead. Talk about it's a
Oh, this
novel.
is a straight
So
up
it's
franchise at this point, because
well,
it
yes.
was the beginning of a lot of things. A lot of authors, even to this day, took inspiration from this series just because of how wide-reaching it is. I'm talking about Dune by Frank
Yes.
Herbert. And God, how do you even begin to describe Dune? The
It's a
spice.
doozy. I don't envy what you're about to do.
Have you read it, Alex?
I haven't read every single novel, but I've read the first two,
Ah, I'm on the second
which
one right
is
now.
the first one I think is just called
It's
Dune.
just Dune. The
Uh,
second one is called Dune
this
Messiah.
yeah, and then there's Children of Dune, and then I forget the rest of the titles.
Hold on
But
a
yeah,
second. It's
I've read the first
Children
two
of Dune, God
novels.
Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, Chapter House Dune, and there's a lot more, also, but those are more prequels.
Okay.
Uh,
But yeah, I've read it. I've seen the 1984 David Lynch movie too, which is pretty damn good.
there's a movie already? Well, not
Yeah, it was
already,
made in
but
1984. It's a fantastic movie by David Lynch.
oh, I might have to go watch that then. I know there's a remake coming up soon.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyways, so Dune, it's basically about this noble son of a house coming having been forced into moved on to this new planet which produces a very essential drug specifically called the spice, which is used in the entirety of humanity for all sorts of different things for well, just for everything. And now they're in charge of producing it while trying to survive takeovers and assassinations and all sorts of political stuff that would happen in a
it's
ancient
also worth
kingdom.
mentioning. It's also worth mentioning before you go further into this synopsis that spice is what makes interplanetary travel possible within this universe.
Yeah, there's actually a reason why they don't rely on machinery. There was actually a huge
That's a
war.
spoiler. That's a spoiler.
Mm, no, they say it pretty damn early on.
Yeah, but it's best to find that out as on your own. Trust me.
Okay, fair enough. There is a reason why they don't use machinery. Is all I will say. Heavily recommend reading this, by the way, because it is a classic for the ages for a reason. But anyways, noble son, forced to move to a new planet, and they basically learn to live on there and survive. And that's all I can say because otherwise there would be massive spoilers. And this is something we definitely feel that you need to read because holy shit, it is amazing. It's I will warn you, there's a lot like it's really heavy on religious connotations and words and such. So that is there, but not in the typical way you're thinking. It's very different.
Yeah. Something else, the religious aspect of it is probably one of its most unique things because it's not something you see a lot in science fiction. Although, to classify Dune specifically as science fiction is kind of doing it a disservice. It's more along the lines of science fantasy than science fiction. Although it borrows it uses a lot of science fiction tropes.
It plays on the line very closely. A lot of
Yeah.
things of what they discuss is actually quite feasible, is the thing.
Yeah. It's also funny because people go after spice as though it's a drug, which it can be used as a drug. And it's almost like there's something in there about drug addiction, which is kind of poignant.
They definitely talk about it, and there's parallels to drug addiction in the books.
Yeah, I definitely think that Dune would make a pretty good anime. I don't know how popular Dune has ever been outside of the West. Although Dune itself, the movie, the David Lynch movie, was like a cult classic. So, but I don't know how well read the novel is outside of the West. I have to look that up sometime.
I know it's been translated to a lot of different languages.
Oh yeah.
Just out of sheer demand. So it's
yeah.
definitely had that.
I do. One thing I've always wondered about Dune, I wonder how popular it is in the Middle East, because a lot of the religious overtones have to do with Middle Eastern religions.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of heavy Islam stuff in there.
I've always wondered about that. I don't know.
I seriously doubt it's very heavy because of how they are, but it does borrow a lot from their terminologies and words.
Yeah. I think even in the course of it's either the first or the second book, there's a war going on it's legitimately referred to as a jihad.
It starts out on the first book, straight up.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I just know that they use that word a lot when they're talking about war in the book. They actually say the word jihad a lot.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much all I got on Dune. Sho, how about you?
Well, I have a manhwa, which is a Korean comic called Killing Stalking. And we've talked a lot about this previously on other podcasts, but if you've forgotten, Killing Stalking is about a gay male killer. No, damn it. It's a gay male... it's a gay male stalker and a straight male killer and their dysfunctional relationship. And it's a psychological...
Emphasis on dysfunctional.
Oh,
like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's a psychological horror thriller BL story, but I mean the main genre is psychological because there's a lot of people going insane, people being insane, literally,
and people fucking their mothers.
What?
Nothing. Just move on.
Oh my god, that doesn't happen. There's no.
Or
incest.
Does it?
No.
Or
stop.
Does it?
Oh my god, this is not that kind of story. But yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I love this manhwa, so I would like to see the story be portrayed in any format. But I think it would work well as an anime because there's a lot of tense moments that deserve a soundtrack. And the two main, I guess, characters, the killer and the stalker, they have a lot of very extreme... They're put in very extreme situations, and I think it provides a really great opportunity for certain voice actors to make an amazing portrayal of these characters because... they have such great roles, and it would work so well if you could actually hear them talk, which you can't obviously in the comic. And there's a lot of content out for it. I think it's on its quote unquote second season, whatever that means for comics, but it's gone through a lot of arcs, and I feel like it could fill up like I think it's enough at least for a 12 episode for one arc, and then maybe you're gonna have to wait a little longer for the second season, in an anime format. But I have written down here that I want Studio Wit to animate it, just because there's a lot of stress lines, those vertical lines on the forehead in the, I think they are actually physically, are they in the comic or am I just imagining it?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so they're physically in the comic, and Studio Wit is very familiar with stress lines from Attack on Titan, and there's just a lot of scenes in Attack on Titan when someone says something really scary and then everybody's just looking at them crazily with all the stress lines, and they just pause on each person being stressed. And I really want those moments in Killing Stalking, because there's a lot of moments when someone threatens to kill or torture someone else, and then the victim is like looking awkwardly back at the person who threatened him in that awkward moment with the stress lines. And I think that would be amazing to be animated by Studio Wit. And speaking of Attack on Titan, just spitballing, I think the voice actor for Levi, Hiroshi Kamiya, would be an interesting fit as the killer, combined with the voice actor for Eren, Yuki Kaji, as the stalker. Because they basically already have that relationship in fan fiction. So...
Oh god, I can see it.
Right.
I legitimately can see it too. Why'd you have to say that?
You sad, strange little man.
Although, it's funny because the killer in Killing Stalking has a very, very strange resemblance to Jean from Attack on Titan.
No. Oh, okay.
They look very similar. So I think Studio Wit is just destined to animate this. And I would love to see it.
Don't worry, they'll animate it. They'll get 6 episodes in and say they have to cut the season in 2.
Honestly, I don't even mind that they did that for Attack on Titan, because the new core is literally so well animated.
It's fucking lit.
Yes, it was worth the wait.
I would watch a Killing Stalking anime, mostly because I genuinely I love reading it. I do also agree that the studio would probably, at least stylistically, handle it probably the best.
The only problem I see with Killing Stalking is that there are some sexually explicit scenes, but the thing is, I don't believe the sexually explicit scenes are like essential to the plot. So you could
something worth pointing out is there's also quite a lot of violence that would probably be censored.
Well, yeah, but like you can get around violence because there's a lot of anime that are very hyper violent, but there's not many that are hyper, like where you actually, because people fuck in Killing Stalking, and that's not gonna happen in an anime. So
yes, and there's also a lot of gay fucking.
Well, yes, it is. They are both men, the two main characters. So yeah, I don't expect to see, if this ever gets animated, I don't expect there to be on-screen fucking, but at the same time, I don't think the on-screen fucking is essential to the plot. Like you can
not,
certainly
but I
allude to
definitely
it.
appreciate the fan service. I would love for them to keep it in there.
They'll if they ever did, they'd probably just allude to it.
Yeah,
or be
like,
one of those cutaway things
off camera or something.
They start making out and then it just cuts away.
Or like it's happening, but you can only see the ceiling or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it would still make a good story even without those scenes.
Yeah. And that's something that also kind of straddles the line between like horror thriller. So I think that kind of goes in with what you were saying about Outlast. It would sort of fill that gap of where you said there's not a whole lot of good horror anime.
I mean, Outlast is more traditionally horror. I think this is more it's more soft horror because there's no like monsters or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more thriller than horror, honestly. So I feel like it's more practical that it could get an anime, because more hardcore horror is not. You just don't see it animated. So I think this is more.
Okay.
I mean, it's along the lines, but it's more. It's honestly it's more of appropriate content compared to Outlast, to be animated.
All right. I will go ahead with my next one that I want to talk about. Actually, I'm going to skip over one because I want to talk about a comedy that I want to make here. So I would love to watch an anime adaptation of the novel series The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Excellent series, by the way. Heavily recommend on reading it.
It is a fucking hysterical sci-fi comedy, which is two genres that are so difficult to mash together and make them good. I can probably count on one hand the number of good sci-fi comedies there are out there. But Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is definitely one of them. It's just so... Everything about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is absolutely insane. And the fact that... it's got a lot of dry British humor in it, which I genuinely love. Don't know if it would translate very well into Japanese, but I'd love for them to give it a shot. So for those who have never read or seen the movie adaptation of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so the story is, in its most basic form, about a guy who witnesses essentially the destruction of Earth and then is sort of pulled out of it and then goes on this like backwoods galaxy spanning adventure trying to get the Earth back by having this thing that's portrayed as like a god make a new Earth. And I know that sounds absolutely insane because it fucking is. And it's just got these absolutely off the wall characters in it that I think would just seeing them animated would be so much fun. And I think there's only one studio I can even think of that could do this justice, and that is Studio Trigger. And it has to be directed by Imaishi. It has to be directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi.
It's so mind-blowingly insane and yet so down-to-earth British humor.
Yes.
All at the same time.
Imagine, if you will, a Monty Python in space. That's exactly what Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is. And that I genuinely think this would make a great anime comedy. Like a good 12 or 13 episode anime comedy. You could probably do the first book in like 13 episodes, I would think. I mean, it doesn't even have to have a coherent story. That's the beauty of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's already a completely incoherent story, so you can't make it more incoherent. It's a fun ride. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is really fun. I highly recommend reading it if you never have. It's fantastic, especially if you're a fan of British humor like Monty Python. And I just think there's so few really good comedies that come out, and this would make a really good comedy.
It would definitely be up there in quality. And even if they didn't execute it necessarily all that well, I know I would enjoy it just off the source material alone.
I think, though, if you gave this to someone like Trigger, they could make it really good. Because Trigger understands Western audiences.
Yeah, this is very true. They could, of anyone, they could execute it very well. And, you know, they do space so fucking often, like, I don't know who else but them can do this.
In fact, yeah, exactly. So Trigger has this unbelievable knack for starting on a fucking planet and ending up in space. Well, why don't you just cut out the middleman and just end up in space from the very beginning? Come on, Trigger. Fucking do it. All right, Chinodo.
All right, so, some of you might, know this, little old franchise. It's called,
Oh, stop teasing everyone.
It's called Star Wars. It's been in some, hot water for the last couple of years because people like to get mad.
I can't imagine why.
In all seriousness,
fuck you, Ryan Johnson.
I'm sorry, what? Chill. Should be more mad about Jar Jar Abrams. Anyways,
says I'm not.
the Star Wars franchise, more specifically, and it was actually Alex that typed this out first. The Old Republic era. Well, he said
Yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic, but I'm more towards just the Old Republic era period because back then was when the 100-Year War between the Sith and the Jedi happened, and it was the time of when like the Old Republic era just had a lot of things going on, and it even towards the ending of it with the Darth Bane coming into power and the Rusan Reformation happening, there's just so many different things that happened in that era, even even in canon, which not a basically nothing in canon unfortunately, but in Legends so much content. It could have been a whole different amount of movies, shows, comics easily if they just made it. So the content
That
is there. The politics I'm sorry if I keep on saying politics, but politics really do interest me in a strange way for shows because showing the multiple sides and the interplay at work is really interesting. So all that, the raw emotion of everything, characters that are stupidly good written and have major names. It has everything that could make anime beautiful. Different scenery, different worlds, cool powers, lightsabers. They're always fucking awesome.
it's like lightsabers, duh.
um, Mandalorian wars, just so many different things. And I would just love to see that on screen. Are you shitting me?
Yeah, I mean the whole reason I originally put down Knights of the Old Republic is I genuinely think that those games, which I still think to this day are the best Star Wars games ever made, um, would make a really good like longer anime series, like maybe a 35 or 36 episode anime series for the first game, and then probably a equally long one for the second game. Um, Also because if you've ever played the Knights of the Old Republic games, you'll know that the second game ends on a cliffhanger and we never got a third. So I'd love to see what happens after that.
If I remember right, some of the writers of that did release what would have happened, but it's
Yes,
somewhere
but
out
I
there.
still want to see it and or play it.
Yeah, no, it's not the same as actually seeing or playing it, though, which is a damn shame, because if they did that, my god, the amount of money they would be raking in.
Um, but yeah, I also just like the overall story. I would just love to see an anime based on this all the stuff that happens around Revan and Malik from those games. I just and as you said, there's a lot of stuff that's alluded to from the Old Republic days, but nothing that's officially canon. So it'd be really cool to actually get a chance to see that. And also, Star Wars at this point is a fucking worldwide a thing, so you really it wouldn't be that difficult to market this.
Yeah. And here's the thing, there already does exist anime inspired show that is it's not airing at the moment because season 1 of it is finished, but season 2 is coming out soon. Star Wars Resistance. It actually the director of the show straight came out and straight up said, "Yeah, we and what this was while Star Wars Rebels was airing. He said, "Yeah, the next series, Resistance, is actually taking on a anime inspired art style, and it is a lot more 3D." But it definitely has anime inspired antics, anime inspired art style. It's just very anime like, and I really appreciate that they're like, they know their fans, they know we want more stuff like that, so they actually played into it, and it's surprisingly good. It's not quite anime, but it blends it in really well.
Yeah, I mean, I like the style of it for sure. I just wish it was about something I gave a shit about.
Fair enough. Plots. Not every plot is for everyone. One of the things that actually makes Resistance very unique is the fact that it doesn't pertain to any Force users or any of that. Which a lot of people agree with me on this, is one of its core strengths, because it actually shows the everyday people, the average person, and their life. Now, obviously, the main character is someone of somewhat importance, because they're a spy for the Resistance, and the New Order actually makes a lot of showing up as well. But still, it's interesting because there isn't any of the shenanigans being caused by these Force users who are constantly putting the galaxy in turmoil. This is just about regular people doing things. And it's very fantastic to watch because you see it from that outside perspective. Now, of course, the Old
Yeah,
Republic, it really wouldn't have that much of that, because like Force users were even much heavier back in those days. But still,
well, it's also, I mean, and again, if you've played the Knights of the Old Republic, it's very much shown that Force users back then were much more powerful than the ones that you see by the time of the movies.
yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I definitely think that the Star Wars franchise could probably very easily have an anime adaptation. It would be very easy to market. I think I'm pretty sure that Star Wars is relatively popular in Japan.
it
Certainly
is.
popular
Yeah.
enough to probably receive an anime adaptation. Actually, the only country I've ever heard of Star Wars doing absolutely terrible in is China, which is surprising. Um, yeah, I think it's sort of a no brainer that this would be the easiest thing in the world to market, especially in the West.
And Disney has the money
Maybe
for it, so it's not a
maybe
question of
not right,
funding.
maybe not right this minute, but down the road.
Yeah.
Because there's still a lot of negativity within the Star Wars fandom right now.
We do know of future series that are already confirmed to be coming up, so who knows? Maybe they'll eventually take a look and say, hey, maybe it's time we broached on this aspect that we haven't covered yet. So, we'll see.
Yeah,
I have a feeling it's more of a question of when and not if.
yeah. I think that eventually there might be some kind of maybe crossover thing where Disney will team up with maybe an anime studio and try and do something. That'd be nice to see.
They're approaching all forms of media, so
Yeah, that's true.
like
Oh God, you know what this means though?
what?
This means that you're gonna have to subscribe to another streaming franchise in order to watch it because
No,
it'll be on Disney
we
Plus.
already know about that. Disney Plus,
Yeah,
Mandalorian's
I
coming
know.
to it.
I know. I'm not saying I don't know this. I'm saying I don't like it.
Ah, well,
I don't like the fact that I
they,
got to sign up for a new streaming service.
and then someone's gonna go and package all those streaming services in, and boom, we'll have cable again. The cycle
Yeah,
repeats.
exactly.
Back to square one.
The more things change, the more they fucking stay the same.
And they'll be like, you know what? We'll have some ads on here, just like how Hulu does it. And if you pay a
Oh
higher
God.
premium, there'll be no
Can we
ad.
move on before I get totally depressed and blow my fucking brains out?
You want to do something? Go after the people. Show, what do you want to see adapted?
Yes.
I'm just gonna ignore the casual death threats to to these streaming services. I would like a very very niche webcomic, literally very niche though, webcomic called Winter Moon get adapted to an anime. You can actually read this for free on webtoons.com. We are not sponsored, but you can do that. It's what the comic is about is it's set in a game called Winter Moon, and the main characters are a gay male arsonist who blows people up for fun and just bullies people. And that, so basically, like, I relate to him a lot.
What an upstanding member of the LBGT community.
I know I am. Thank you. No. And the other main character is a straight female gold digger who pretends to be players' girlfriends, like their online girlfriends. And she makes them spend all their money on her, and then she dumps them, and then she goes on to the next person. So these great, amazing people, these two people form a guild together, and they basically they ruin people's lives, and they just fuck people up. And it's just I
just another day in World of Warcraft.
Literally toxic communities, toxic online communities, very very accurate to them. But I really like this comic because I personally find the characters that I just described very interesting to watch. It definitely tickles my sadistic nature and fulfills those needs by watching them gain pleasure by toying with other people. And just off the cuff, I think, what's his name? Oh, Mamoru Miyano would be a really good voice actor for the gay arsonist because he's very flamboyant, and I can imagine him mocking people.
He could just funnel Kotaro Tatsumi from Zombieland Saga.
I
didn't watch it, but I'm sure it was an amazing.
It was.
Portrayal.
It was
godly. Yes, it was. Hey, Tsunoda. Nice bird.
Oh, why did I see that? Oh.
Bless Mamoru Miyano.
And I imagine Saori Hayami as the gold digger, and particularly, I chose her because of her role as Yumeko Jabami from Kakegurui. So I would like her to channel her Kakegurui for this part to just psychologically traumatize her victims. And I think this would be a good anime in particular because the comic itself is it's not a 4-coma, but it's very similar to that format, in that the chapters are very short, and between the chapters there's like time skips, and like each chapter is just like one contained scene, and then it doesn't necessarily consecutively flow into the next chapter. So it's like little tiny scenes. So if you make it an anime, you can use your creative license to fill in the gaps there, and make a more coherent story. So that would be a really great opportunity to fully flesh out this wonderful universe full of amazing characters that need to be on the big screen.
I'd never heard about this until you talked about it, and it's like when you first started talking about it, like this kind of sounds like an isekai, and you kept talking about it, it's like no, it's not.
No, they're just playing a game. They're not stuck in there. You see them outside the game occasionally.
So it's like an exploration of what it's like to be in a toxic community.
So yeah, playing online games, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's why why do you think I said an average day in World of Warcraft?
Basically.
Oh, I might check it out just based on what you said, especially since each chapter you said is short.
Yeah, it's super short. It's a quick read. There's like a bajillion chapters.
So it's probably really easy
though.
to catch up. Probably really easy to catch up.
Yeah, there's like 200-ish chapters, but I'm sure you could catch up in a day if you really wanted to.
I mean, if it's really short chapters, you can probably get through them in a couple minutes apiece.
Mm-hmm. You do the math, honey.
Yeah. I'm just saying that I'm trying to get more people out there to read it. Yeah, it sounds interesting. It sounds like it could be a good, maybe a short series, or maybe each episode's like 15 minutes long and it got like 2 or 3 chapters in each one.
See, if it was being faithful to the comic, that would make sense. But I don't personally don't want it to be faithful to the comic. I'd rather it like actually
get expanded.
Have creative license and just like, you know, you have the base plot, but then like just add in whatever you want into there.
Okay, that could work too. All right, so we're past the hour mark. Should we keep going? Because I know we got more stuff, or should I wrap it up?
I want to keep going. Show?
You should always use protection.
Okay.
What?
You should always wrap your willy.
I don't know if he's saying he wants to stop or go on.
Let's just go on and just like let him exist.
All right. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. All right. Well, we'll do one more. How about that? For each of us.
Meet you outside. How about
I
that?
want to do 2.
No, we're not doing 2. We're doing 1 because I'm hungry.
Oh yeah, so am I. Thanks for reminding me.
The fact that I have to remind you of that is staggering. Anyway,
I will forget that I'm hungry and keep on doing stuff, and come back to my hunger later.
Okay. Anyway, so the last one I want to suggest for an anime is a game. Again, wow, we're back to the beginning. That for many years now has been rumored to potentially be getting an anime adaptation, but never has. It's never come through. Of course, it's also been rumored that it might be getting a live action adaptation, and that's never happened. But the game that I'm talking about, or I guess I should say the game franchise that I'm talking about, is The Legend of Zelda. This is already a Japanese franchise. We know it sells pretty much every single game from the franchise sells enormously well within Japan. And as I said, it's a Nintendo franchise, so it really wouldn't be that difficult to probably get a license to do an anime adaptation. If I had to pick one game from the franchise in particular to do an anime adaptation of first, I'd probably say Ocarina of Time, simply because it's the most well-respected worldwide, not just in Japan. But to be quite honest, almost any of the games could probably be adapted into an anime of some kind. But yeah, the Legend of Zelda is like the quintessential hero's journey. You usually start out as Link, who has little to no powers, and by the end, you're fucking OP as shit. And I mean, it's accomplished various ways throughout each game, but you always end up as this like badass boss by the end of the game. I think it would be fun to watch the hero's journey from nobody to hero. And I would personally pick Ocarina of Time, not just because it's my favorite Zelda game, but because it is the most popular worldwide. And I think the only anime studio I could think that would probably do this justice is Studio Bones. Just because Studio Bones recently seems to be able to do no wrong in the eyes of everyone else. And I think that the person I would personally pick to direct this would be Hiroshi Hamasaki, who, again, if you're not familiar with his work, he was the director of the first season of Steins Gate. He was the director of Orange, Shut Up Show. He was an episode director on episode 3 of Space Dandy, which was amazing. He was the director of Terraformers. He's also the director of it's an anime I've never been able to figure out how it's fucking pronounced. Texanalize?
I personally call it Tex-H-nalize, but I know that's not how you pronounce it.
I've always thought it was like Teshnalize or something like that. I've never figured out how to fucking pronounce the name of this. Anyway, so that's who I would pick to direct it, mostly because I think he does really great with character stuff. And I have to say, I think the only reason personally that we haven't gotten an anime adaptation of Legend of Zelda is, well, actually 2 reasons. Number 1, Nintendo is notoriously stingy with its properties. And number 2 is that I think there's this unspoken like fear that the second you give Link a voice is the second he becomes unrelatable to players. Because if you think about it, as far as The Legend of Zelda has come, and as far as video games in general have come, the main character, Link, has never had a voice. I mean, yeah, he does his screams and shit, but that's it. And I think that's kind of like an unspoken fear among Zelda fans, that like the second he gets a voice, like it's never going to be good enough. Anyway, I don't know if I genuinely don't know if The Legend of Zelda would make a great anime, but I think it's worth trying.
It'd make a great hentai.
Good Jesus Christ.
Listen, I've already seen plenty of that, and I can confirm it does make for a great hentai.
Okay. You motherfuckers. Chinoda, what's the last one you're gonna do?
I hate you for... You know what? Show, go ahead, because I am trying to pick and I can't pick between these two.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I have a manga, the only Japanese property that I've done so far, called To Your Eternity, which is surprising that it doesn't already have an anime adaptations because I'm pretty sure it's really well received. It's not that well received. Well, it's from what I've heard from the people who have read it, they really approve of it, and I also obviously really recommend it. It's a great manga. It's a very strange plot that I'm going to attempt to describe. So it follows this shape-shifting immortal being as he travels through the world trying to understand the meaning of the world. And how I say he, it's a genderless being, but I'm just going to say he because I can't do genders. So the immortal,
Gotcha,
how he does
20 insert year. Genders aren't a thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
To my defense, okay, you know what? It's complicated to say why I use he, but whatever. Okay, the immortal, how he goes about this process of understanding what the world means is he accompanies one person from when he meets them to when they die, and he witnesses their life, and then once the person dies, he shapeshifts into that person and then goes to the next person. So the timeline is obviously very long because it's spanning multiple generations, and it's a series of basically tragedies because what you're seeing is the story of someone's life, and they usually die horribly. So it's a series of watching people live the desperate lives and then die tragically, and then you just move on to the next person and move on to the next person, and all this time the immortal is learning like the different human emotions and various aspects of what it means to be human and what it means to live on Earth. And it's a very big philosophical themes being addressed, like really it's so hard to describe what exactly the immortal is trying to understand, that it's an extremely philosophical manga, but also, you know, with seeing the micro stories of all the different people, it's really great characterization of all the different people, especially since you see them for such a long time. So it's a great character study as well, and it's also it's everything basically. I could say also this and also that all day, but yeah, it's a lot of things, and I think it is honestly an amazing story that would work so well if it got animated and it was given the spotlight. So I highly recommend reading it in general, but I definitely would love it to be animated as well. Unfortunately, it is not finished, and I don't think there's really a great point for an anime to end if it was adapted. So I don't know where. Actually, you know what? It could end on when any of the people die. So yeah, no, that's fine. Every time a person dies, that could be a season. So this format works great for anime. So.
I wanted to point out really quick that I just went and looked this up on Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. I have to share this plot, the first sentence of the plot synopsis.
Go ahead.
It, comma, a mysterious immortal being, comma, is sent to Earth with no emotions nor identity. It. And it just, throughout this entire plot, throughout this entire plot synopsis, it continually refers to the main character simply as it.
In the fan translation that I'm reading, it's never it. See, I'm saying it now. The immortal is never referred to as it, but I don't know. I guess it's just translation.
I think
Who knows?
they're not actually saying that that's the character's name. They're just using this in lieu of a gendered pronoun, it, which in most people would say is very rude.
Okay, I it would take too long to say why I say he, but you know what? You can just think I'm. You can just say I'm. You can just say I'm transphobic. But you would be wrong. But I'm not gonna defend myself because it would take too long.
Nah, it's just I thought it was funny. I was reading through the plot synopsis, and every single time it's like it does this, it does that. I'm thinking, is it a fucking robot?
Well, it's not human, so I guess it would be referred to as it. I don't know. Whatever.
I suppose.
Whatever.
Well, based on how you describe this, it does actually sound like it could be a good, almost like an anthology anime where it could be multiple seasons where each season focuses on, I guess, whoever this person is watching over.
Yeah, I think that would work as a good format. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and maybe you could have variable season lengths just depending on how long you needed to tell the story.
Yeah, definitely, because it varies the length of the people he watches. It watches whatever.
Terrible. We're terrible people. Anyway, yeah, it sounds interesting. It sounds like something I should try and read.
It's very, very good. I would highly recommend it.
All right, Chinoda. Time to shine.
All right, so had to pick between Destiny or Mistborn. And you know what? I'm gonna go with Mistborn because first and foremost, it's already finished, so it's got that going for it. And the writing is more clear than the game. So Mistborn. TLDR because otherwise I can't to say anything without spoiling it. It's about this it's a novel, by the way, a series of novels. It's only 3 or 4 books, so it's not bad. It's about these people that can basically ingest metals, and whatever specific metal they can ingest, they get powers out of. Really neat powers, actually. Just, but very, somewhat, like, not overpowered, and it's just more, sort of realistic, like, increases physical abilities, increase physical, senses, pull on nearby metals, just that type of stuff. And some of them are a bit more than that, but it's kind of basic in terms of what they do. And the series takes place around this chick who's basically able to eat more than two or three of these metals. She's, if I remember right, she's able to eat them all, and it basically goes on from there about just rebellion, the whole system being turned upside down, just all sorts of things that are happening, and a lot of these are based around the metals. It's really cool, really interesting. I could definitely see anime being made out of it, and it's already over and done with a definitive ending, which is fucking fantastic. So yeah, that's Mistborn. I very heavily recommend reading it. It is typically meant for the more young adult readers, but honestly, it stands on its own in terms of writing.
Okay then. Wasn't there an anime that came out last year about personified minerals?
Land of the Lustrous.
Land of the Lustrous, yes. People keep telling me I should watch that.
I'm eventually gonna check it out. I'm not in a hurry.
Also here it's CG. It has really good fan art.
The him talking about eating minerals and rocks is like, oh, I don't know why that made me think of that, but it did.
Steven's Universe?
Steven Universe?
Wait, hold on. Here's an important question to judge if the show is actually good. How much porn does it have?
That's a good
Of
question.
What?
Land of the Lustrous.
Of Land of the Lustrous?
Okay. I haven't seen much porn.
Oh, it might not be that good then.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can seriously judge how good a show is based off of how much porn there is. I'm not even joking.
Okay, Shinoda.
It's a real fact.
Yeah, you say that. You say that, but the inverse is also true. Like, if there's almost no porn, it can also be just as good. And I will tell you, one of the things that I can use to prove this point is Sweetness and Lightning. You're thinking about it now, aren't you?
Fuck you. It doesn't fit in the genre.
Okay.
God damn it.
It fits my description, though.
You're right, but fuck you.
All right, so there you have it. There's a handful from each of us of source material that we believe deserves an anime. Thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out previous episodes of the podcast, you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. If you want to keep up with what we're doing and have a little more fun, you can join our Discord server, become a member of our Facebook group, follow our Twitch channel, and visit our website. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, or concerns on this or any episode, feel free to shoot us an email. Links to all these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
More anime. More anime. Give me more.
Oh, God, he's hungry. Everybody run away.
Come on!